Okay, so we're going to hold vote 78, number 78, and it's going to be to determine if we're going to do your idea for the show, which is just dumb. I mean...
What?
Yeah. Why? Why would you want to do that? My idea is so much better. Malamas? Hello?
Come on, that's not as hard-hitting and as relevant as racism.
You ever seen a llama? Never mind. If I win the vote, we're going to do llamas. If you win the vote, but so far it's been a tie, 1-1 for 77 other times. This is number 78. This is the time that I'm going to win. All right, you ready?
All right.
All right. All for llamas? That's one. It's one for llamas. All for more racism? We gotta break this tie somehow, dude. I can't have this.
Wait, I got an idea. All the two contributors should get a vote.
Well, that's fine. That's actually part of the bylaws. But if you look at the bylaw, under section 7,633 of the Matu bylaws, and Article A1-7943686.
675309.
Yes. That states that they have to be present in order to vote. So we can't do like an online voting, otherwise that would be just great. We could
vote for. Maybe we could get one here.
Need one more.
Just one. Hey!
Whoa! What in the... Where'd you come from?
I came from your hopes and dreams.
Aw. Well...
She's a contributor.
Oh.
What's it gonna be? What's the topic?
She's got a jiggly hat.
Woo!
Stupid jiggly hats.
Jinglies win again.
Hey everyone, welcome to Matu. My name's Steve.
And I'm Chris.
And as you can see, we have a guest.
My name is Ashlee.
And I am outnumbered. So our topic of today is racism. Because why not?
That's a large topic, so we needed an extra person.
Yep. So I guess a good place to start is genetic theory, right? You guys think that'd be a great...
Starting at the beginning, it might just work.
Not for us, but we'll try.
I don't know about this whole going in order thing, but
Well, we'll give it a go. We'll try. You want to try it? Is it good?
I suppose we can be organized.
Okay. This is once. So basically, it didn't start with Darwin, but the idea of like evolution and how we evolved from monkeys and whatnot, apes, all the way up to us now. They think that a lot of geneticists back at that time thought that the human race was evolved and that the white race was the most evolved race of all. Because if you chart the history of humanity from where they left Africa all the way up to Northern Europe, you got whiter. So...
Yeah, turns out the genetic markers were all screwed up on that one. But
the fact that when it actually comes down to genetics, we're not any different except for there's very slight differences, but it has nothing to do with like brain power or full-on physiology. It's just like bone structure.
Well, overall, it's been pretty much proven that the more mixed race you are, the more immunities you have to diseases and such. So one could actually argue the reverse of that is true.
Yeah, that's actually a very good statement. That's a very good argument because it's been found to be extremely true. And one of the ideas that was proposed, if you breed humans, which is what Darwin thought, our buddy Darwin, he thought that if he took his family and bred them with another family of really smart people and attractive people or whatever, that you'd get like these super smart, awesome kids eventually down the line. And they found out after like 2 or 3 generations, not generations, but 2 or 3 like great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids, that they were having like stillborns and all types of deformities, mental retardation. And so they realized that their idea of genetics and whatnot did not actually bear fruit, if you will.
So basically, central planning of the genetics market failed.
Yeah.
So let's talk about America in particular and how this theory of eugenics started to bear foul fruit.
I mean, the whole concept of genetic theory basically gave way to white supremacy, leading people to believe that African Americans were seen as more property, such as cattle or something, to be bought and sold.
So even after we abolished slavery in America, the idea that whites were better led to even more, not even more worse things, but worse things in general, with like Jim Crow laws and lynchings and beatings and stuff
Well, I
like
don't know
that.
about worse things. I mean,
No, I think I said that wrong.
it was a progression of sorts.
Yeah.
It was a progression in the right direction, but too little, not soon enough.
So the country was, or the South was segregated. Blacks only here, whites only here. Was there a segregation for Mexicans too and Asians in the South?
Well,
Well, like colored, like when they said colored, I would assume that Mexicans and Asians had to use those restrooms, right?
I mean, colored is like all-encompassing. Either you look white or you're colored.
I just don't get it because
If you could pass, there's
the
Technically,
problem with
black
that for
people
me
can
is white people are colored too. We're not white. We're like peach or gray. You know, like there's
Well,
different colors. I mean, look at all three of us are different colors.
Ironically, white light contains all the light of the spectrum. Now, black is actually colorless. So how do they call them colored?
I don't
Well,
know.
the whole theory of segregation was based on ignorance. Do we really expect it to be?
Based on actual science? No. No, we
What? Race realism? Is it a science?
don't. No, it's not. It's not science.
In theory, it was supposedly separate but equal. We all know that didn't actually pan out in practice, but that was the theory behind it, at least.
Yep. Do you know because of segregation is the reason that you have the stereotype that African Americans like chicken?
We did not know that.
Yeah, it's because African American men, when they went to work, had to take their own meal. So what they would do is their wives would fix them chicken because it was easy to hold on to without silverware. Because you can't take silverware to work and stuff like that. So like they would make lunches of fried chicken. I'm not even kidding. That's actually a real fact.
Fried chicken is delicious.
I know it is. No, but it'd be great for you. But that's a really cool fact, isn't it? Like, that's how it started. And because they couldn't go and buy their lunch somewhere, because there was usually nowhere to buy it, they had to take their lunch.
Huh. So, stereotypes.
That's part of racism, right? It's like in the wheelhouse of racism.
It's at least like a cousin.
Well, like I said with the chicken thing, I think that most stereotypes are based off some truth, but I also think that you can't go just because one person likes something that another person's gonna like it. You know what I mean? Like it's like jiggly hats and fedoras. Like fedoras are obviously way better, but you have more of those hats than you do of the fedoras. I mean, it's dumb and it's not right.
I mean, jingly hats are always superior, but I mean, I think a lot of stereotypes are not necessarily started in truth, but exaggerated truth, more like.
Yeah, that's actually a better way to say it. I actually like that. A more exaggerated truth, like white people can't dance. It's not as a whole the truth, but it's a matter of, it's kind of like a funny stereotype of the truth. You know what I mean? Like a lot of white people can't dance, but I think there's just as many people in other races that can't dance. It's just kind of one of those. Once like that stereotype gets kind of put out there, it kind of sticks. Like white men can't jump. Well, that's not true. We can jump very well. It's just a matter of that's not something that white men do very often. We don't.
And
not
there are
big basketball
more. I
players.
think that's more just that once equality became more of a thing, the most major sports got overtaken by people of color because they were just better at what they did and didn't have the opportunity to do it at first.
Okay, we played with the idea of white privilege, but we're going to talk about seriously now, and what that means to us.
I'd like to be on record saying that I accept my white privilege, and will you guys please send me my white check? I admit it now, I would like my white check. That's how that works, right? You admit your privilege and they send you a check?
I mean, okay,
I need the money. I need the money. That'd be great.
I feel like the whole concept of white privilege has been construed far off from what it actually is. I mean, basically the only thing, realistically, that white privilege can entail is not having people be racist to you as much as it were to happen if you were in a smaller minority group.
Yeah.
And that's just a numbers game, basically, just because there are more white people.
Right. Well, yeah, and that
So should we
literally
call
what
it majority privilege?
I would think that's a better term, because if it's any other race, it's their privilege. And I don't think it's that big of a deal, though. Like, the only time I see white privilege being a deal is maybe if say like me with my last name that's a little bit more, or my first name that's a little bit normal, whereas like someone who has a more African name go
Like,
apply
say,
for the same job.
Steven versus like Laquisha.
Yeah, and we go apply for the same job, and we're equal on everything else, and they pick me because of my name. Maybe, but that doesn't happen that often. They interview everybody that they get an application from. You know, most people that aren't actual racists. So that small racist part, yeah, maybe it does
I think
happen.
the whole theory about white privilege in a monetary context is just that there are still families that became rich off of slavery who are still rich. But
Well, not even
people
just
fail to
off of
realize-
slavery. It's money. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
What people fail to realize is that even back when there was slavery, a very small percentage of people were actually slave owners.
Yeah.
It's more of a wealth privilege than a white privilege.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, right now in America, more white people have wealth, but that's because of slavery. But as we're getting farther and farther and farther away from slavery, more and more Africans are building wealth, because you build on top of. So like my kid, I'm about to have a kid. My kid should have a better life than me because I have a better life than my parents. And I do. I'm living proof that I have a better life than what my mom did when I was a kid. So if I can make sure that my kid has a slightly better life, they'll make sure, so on and so on. And that's what we've had for, 250 years or whatever. Whereas the African Americans have only had it for, 120 years, something like that. So they haven't had as much time to accumulate wealth as we have as white people. And eventually, once they catch up to us, then it is going to be completely and utterly wealth privilege, nothing else.
I mean, another thing that gets associated with white privilege is kind of a muddling of terms with racism and such.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yes.
I mean, basically, general understanding within, I should say, the social justice sect of people is that white people can't be racist against white people because there's a system in power in place that supports white people.
Supposedly in power.
Yeah, there we go. But what they fail to realize is that oppression and racism are not the same term, and by definition, racism can be defined as a political system based on race, superiority based on race, or prejudice and discrimination as defined by the dictionary.
Right, so racism is a belief, which means you don't even have to have any kind of way of enforcing said belief. It's just a belief, period. Yeah, and I could see definitely also just a traumatic experience could be something that turns you against a certain group of people in general.
Yeah.
You see the face of that person who victimized you every time you see someone who shares their physical characteristics.
You can even say that for something like even rape or something where, like women are scared of being around, a woman who's raped is scared of being around a man because of that situation, or even a man who was raped.
Yeah,
Same thing.
Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a post-traumatic stress almost, kind of, but it builds itself as racism in some people because of just, I guess, how we're naturally hardwired to be, in like a group, a club, always, like we're always have to be identified as we and us instead of,
I think another thing that contributes into that is social justice actually does more to foster racism than it does to dispel it.
That is
Because-
very true.
I mean, you tell all these white people you are racist just because you're white, then some of them are probably going to say, well, I'm racist anyway, what does it matter? I'm going to be racist.
Might as well. I can see that. I definitely can see that.
Yeah, there's some guys that just, oh, I can't win anyway. So I guess if you're gonna make us choose teams, I gotta choose the one that's gonna profit me.
So I used to work with this young black man who was like super smart and super awesome, and I really liked him. And that Trayvon Martin shit was going down. It was Eli. Do you remember Eli? That
I
worked?
remember you.
Yeah, okay, Eli. Me and Eli were working one night, and we were talking about the Trayvon Martin thing. We both kind of agreed, and it was stupid to happen, whatever, blah blah blah, right? And he goes, ah shit, man, the brace board's about to break off. And he goes, fuck, I gotta get to Beloit. No joke, man. Like he literally said that. It was fucking great. I was
Okay,
laughing
that
so
story
hard.
stays.
I just thought I thought it was funny because of the whole like, he's outnumbered in Janesville. That was pretty good stuff.
That's hilarious if you're from southern Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's super funny. What is that?
Dude, I'm sponsored by Red Bull.
Nas. It's way better than Red Bull.
Red Bull, it gives you wings. Think we might have to have a vote on this too. What do you say, tiebreaker?
Oh,